Hello everyone, how are you all doing today? I was actually reminded by my roommate, Lebo. She's like, Shady, aren't you going to do your vlogging today for your students? I'm like, oh crap, I forgot about it. And she says, no, your students need you, man. You got to help them. You always told me how they're struggling with their work, and I end up seeing you sleeping on the bed. What's up with that, man? I'm like, okay, I will do this vlog. So, what I'm going to teach you guys today, this is mostly for my students that's doing BMAS Foundation, and they're doing grade 3 level theory at the moment. And what they got taught in the lesson was 4-part harmony. I've noticed when the students had to compose, like I said in the previous videos, they intend to apply the composition method of how to compose. I'm not going to elaborate why they're struggling, but it's just the application of harmonic writing as well as putting rhythms together and understanding the phrase and thematical structures to how they compose. Okay, I'm not going to waste any time, so I'm going to start with this video. The first thing one needs to understand in this first step that we're going to talk about is the structure. Now, what is the structure of a music? Like I said in the first video, I made an example, of a chair. Why does a chair have 4 stools and not 2 stools? It's all about balance. And like in music, there has to be a sense of balance. Then it's also got to do with how is it balanced. And I made a reference to Cardi B's rap music. When she, let me just put a better rapper here. Let's say Yati or Youngster Keita or Youngster CPT, you know the rest. They start off with verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, little bridge section, chorus, conclusion, or the coda as I call it. Same applies with music as well. If there is no structure in music, there is no definition or to the music itself, and the music doesn't make sense in the end of the day. So that is the first point. The second point is the phrasing. Now my question is to you is, what do you know about the phrase? And in your textbooks, it will make mention or describe a phrase as a musical sentence. Right? And how the musical sentence is indicated is with this symbol. And the musical notes is written within that symbol. Then you have the next pointer, which is called the motifs. Now, what is a motif? Or they call it another word, they call it a subphrase. Now, what is a motif? The motifs basically introduce a thematical material to the phrase. We have 2 types of motifs. You have the antecedents, which is your first motif, and then you have your consequent, which is your second motif. The antecedent, I normally call it a core. That states or introduces something, and then you have the answer, the second, the consequent, or the response, which is your answer. It will answer to your call. So it's basically a systematic structure of call and the response. It's no use me explaining in such layman's terms if I can't apply it to how we are going to compose it. So the first thing is, before we put the music or our composition on the stage, we need to compose the rhythm. Using the structuring and the steps guided that I wrote on the board, let's think of a time signature. Let's give it 2/4. Make it easy for all of us. So the first thing is we need to understand the structure. The structure is we're composing for 4 bars, right? And that is the phrase itself. Then you need to compose then the motifs that subdivides the phrase into 2. The first 2 bars, which I would name the call a motif. Let's think of a rhythm based on that. Now let's talk thematic material of how to compose further onto the response or the consequent motif. What I would do thematically, I would use the first bar as my little A theme, and I would repeat the same rhythm in bar 3. Bar 2 has its own theme, rhythm, and bar 4, you have to understand, concluding the music, we need to have a elongated note value which needs to indicate, okay, we're finishing the music off. In this case, we're dealing with 2/4, and that itself will end the music off with a minimum. Then, the next step is, obviously in bar 3, we have to write the same rhythm down to say, okay, this is our rhythm composition for our 4-part phrase. Now, the first step is adding the chords to the rhythm. In a grade 3 level, you guys were taught about chordal progressions of chord 1, chord 4, and chord 5. If you have to compose for 4 bars, you need to compose the first bar within the tonic key, second bar within chord 4, third bar as your dominant, and the fourth bar as your tonic. Now let's see. Alright, let's analyze the work for us to start off with. In chord 1 as a tonic, you're dealing with C major. The notes in chord 1 is C, E, G. In chord 4, it is F, A, C, and chord 5 is G, B, D. Hoo-wee. So, let's compose using the rhythms that's been created here. So, the first step we need to do is, we're going to start off with the call phrase, or the call motif, using this rhythm. Now, we have to think now, what notes can we add in this rhythm given the tonic? So obviously we're starting off the music in C, in the tonic key, and we have to start off with C. Right, we have that down. Then we have the 2 rhythms left, E, G. Okay, so we did that. Now let's go to the B rhythm. Now we have to create something within chord 4. So let's think, we have F there, A there, and maybe you could add another A. And then, in the third bar, we have chord 5. Using the same rhythm over here as chord 1, but now we just have to imply the notes, which is G, B, D. G, over here, then we have the 2 rhythms S, and then we left with the B and the D note. And then in our last bar is definitely our tonic key and the minor, which we can end off with the note C. That's how you compose a music. And what I'm going to do is, okay, I'm glad I'm just showing you the broader view of what I just composed now. So what I'm going to do now, based on what we composed, I'm going to analyze using the steps, what the phrase is, and what the motifs are, and what are the antecedent, antecedent and the consequence within the phrase. So, the phrase, I'm going to use a green cookie. Yeah, so basically this whole 4-bar music, I would say that's your phrase. Then, using the red cookie, I'm going to indicate the first 2 bars. I would say that is your antecedent motif. And then your bar 3 and bar 4 is your consequent. In other words, we can say the first 2 bars is your call, and your third and 4th bar is your response or your answer. Okay,